All right, hello, good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? Hope you're having a fantastic day so far, whether you're just getting started or whether your day's just kind of wrapping up. Hope you're having a great one. Welcome to This Week in Illuvium. We'll be getting to another new style kind of show here in just a moment's time. And no, your ears did not deceive you. I did accidentally have two sets of music playing at the same time there. Sorry about that. But we'll get into the swing of things here in just a moment. We've got a bunch to cover, of course. We'll tackle the usual topics with the arena, with overall. We'll take a look at the marketplace, look at our top sales. We'll take a look at all of that. But of course, at the very end here today, what we'll end up doing is taking a look at the new Illuvium Deathmatch, the Risk2Earn game. We're going to take a look at the document. It was a game design concept document that was sent out on the Illuvium Discord. We're going to take a look at that, analyze it a little bit, and I'll give my thoughts on where I think that this game's going and whether I like it or not. We'll take a look at that, of course. So without further ado, let's hop on over into the news side of things here. So first and foremost, the first thing that was kind of the catalyst over the last day or two to seeing what I would argue is a small jump in numbers. We're starting to see a couple of, or more players more often in lobbies here. From before, where we maybe get 3 players and the rest being bots in the lobby, we're now seeing games where, at least a couple of them that I had yesterday, we did have about 5 or 6, sometimes even 7 players in a lobby, nearly filling up. I believe they made a change as well where bots don't fill up the queue as quickly, so the chances of actually finding people before the bots get in there do end up being a thing. So we've been able to actually fill up our lobbies a lot better now. And of course, it started off with the Discord post on the Illuvium server, but eventually it turned into this here. Of course, Illuvium making this specific official announcement on their X page here. Of course, not only, of course, is the arena... Whoop! I broke my camera here. 1 second. Not only is the... That's what I was trying to do. There we go. A little bit of scuff to start off the morning. My apologies. But... yeah, so not only is the arena experience back, because before, when the Battle Pass was a thing, they kind of tied that in to the Battle Pass perk, right? So you'd buy the Battle Pass and your Illuvials would get experience while you play in the arena. However, it didn't necessarily translate to a lot of experience. I know, for example, like a lot of my Illuvials that I would have in there, if I had, say, my Axon play from start to finish, I might get like 300, 400 experience, which is good for getting your Illuvials from, say, like 1 to 15, 1 to 20, but you do run into a big roadblock extremely quickly. So trying to get into the like middle stage, the mid to high levels, in the old way was extremely painful, and it was very tough to actually do. Meanwhile, now they've brought the arena experience back, not with the Battle Pass. It's just completely free. As long as you are playing arena and you own the Illuvials that you're using, you do end up getting experience, and it's 3 times the experience as well. An example of my Grocco here that I had posted on the under Illuvium's post here as a reply, but yeah, I had this Greater Water Grocco from start to finish, essentially, in a game I believe I got a top 3 in, and I got over 3,000 experience, and it's helping me progress them through the early 30s here, and that's kind of what I was extremely happy to see. I know a couple of the players that would have their own major collections already at level 60 and whatnot, like they were a little bit upset about it, but it's very few people. It was just those with the level 60s, and they're worried about, I guess, their value of their collections going down, which even if I were to humor that argument, basically, in my opinion anyway, the 3 times experience is still not enough experience to boost an Illuvial from like 1 to 60 in a short period of time. It's still going to take a long time for me to get up to level 60, but at least this lets me get into the 30s, get into the 40s with like casual but consistent playing compared to just being stuck. So I'm very happy with this change. The arena EXP is definitely a welcome change here. I'm very, very happy it's here. I know personally, it's been nice hopping into games and then having to play up against people with their own collections that are also leveling them up. I've noticed the quality of games has gone up since this change has come in. Yes, granted, it's only been 2 days, but it's been a fantastic 2 days, so I'm very, very happy so far with this change here. And of course, regardless of which platform you happen to be on, X, YouTube, or Twitch, of course, I do have the chats available. Even though this is more of a news broadcast, I'm still absolutely open to questions, comments, or concerns as we go along here. Not mandatory, of course. I'm happy you're here no matter what. But if you feel the need or wish to, by all means, I have you beside me here, and we'll chit-chat while we go along here. That's the biggest change over the last little bit, but of course we can now take a look and see, did that actually change the meta at all from what we saw in the last week or so in terms of the arena? I'm going to pull up the Illuva Vault here in just a moment's time, and we'll start off with the augments. Let's hop on into it right here. A little bit cut off. I can fix that. Yeah, right here. There we go. So for the most used alluvial augments, the Restorating Impact Reactor by far is still just running away with this thing. This augment, again, I'm not going to take too long in terms of describing anything, but it just has basically everything that you want right now on majority of alluvials, whether it be tank or DPS. Heck, I've thrown this thing onto my Sepphoris and have found fantastic results with it as kind of an extra last-minute sustain option. The augment just healing on takedown and getting tankier, it's just extremely good. There's a reason why we're seeing it as the most used, but it's also got a fantastic win rate as well, almost 40% currently. And it is not uncommon to see players or see multiple of these augments in the top 3. Heck, it's not uncommon to see multiple copies of the Restorating Impact Reactor from the same player, sometimes even stacked on the same alluvial. It just does such a great job. And the thing that it used to be better, it was nerfed, but it's still extremely, extremely strong. I would not be surprised to see this get hit sometime in the future. Because yeah, just everybody is using this thing still. That, as well as the Hyperforce Reactor we do see here in second, while they might have gotten rid of the raw attack speed, the stacking attack speed is still just too valuable to ignore. It's not picked up as often, and it doesn't win as often as the Restorating Impact Reactor, but it is definitely a favorite among the community, as well as the Charge Force Reactor, where it's just the raw damage and damage amp. Straightforward, no bonus effects, but a nice little bonus to your damage, of course. The Engine, as I would call it, the Tessellating Omega Reactor, where your attacks give your bonus energy, does end up finding the 4th spot. And rounding up the field, to much of my surprise actually, is the Trinity Pulse, where it just gives you 20% of attack damage, 20 Omega Power, and 10% attack speed bonus. I'm very, very surprised. I imagine that the Piercing Force would be picked up a little bit more often, considering that people's teams are just tankier nowadays. That the 2%, I believe it is now, of max health would be a little bit more valuable. But in terms of completion, in terms of how much it's being used, that's not necessarily translating. If we switch this over to win rate in particular, though, we're going to see the restorating one there as well. Disruptive Force is actually up here as well. The Synchronizing Pulse, where you take your attack damage and turn 25% of it into energy damage on top of that with Piercing, is nice. And then we're starting to see, say, the 1% of health as physical damage, and there's the percent one going up in the top 10. I kind of skipped through the imprints as well, though, because the imprints are kind of just outliers. You're not going to see that every single game. It is a rarity, and what kind of scenarios you can get with the imprints in there is much different compared to the standard game. Although I am not surprised to see Revenant dump there. Of course, I remember back in patch, I believe it was 1.12, where these imprints would fall like candy, and rogues were having an amazing time turning their slash-ins into Revenants and just absolutely destroying lobbies. Yeah, I don't miss those times either, but we're still seeing when the opportunity comes, when the Revenant ship is there, people are capitalizing. Legendary-wise, it looks like the Affinity Core is actually the most, or the legendary with the most win rate currently, 67% for getting a massive amount of Omega power plus some crit chance. Getting True Sights and Piercing here for the Hyper Striker going to round up second. Temporal Guard, where you get the shield and heal every time you cast your Omega. And third, the Adaptive Plates, where you get resistances and then deal damage based on resistance back, is going to be in fourth. And last but not least, the Void Cleaver, where you attack up to 3 nearby enemies, is going to be the fifth best legendary augment. Again, legendary augments, they're rare. You don't get them in every single game. Usually you need Shard Bluff to come along, or otherwise it's such a small chance of actually getting it. But in case that opportunity does show up, you have a rough idea as to what everybody's been using to find the most success, which is kind of interesting because considering last week, we saw Limitless Surge up at the very top. It fell quite significantly without any changes actually happening balance-wise. So just the name of the game, I suppose, here for this one. If we hop on over to the other side where we start looking at our weapons. Let's see. Currently, the best weapon in the game, tied actually, we do have a little bit of a tie for first and second here between the Quake Maulers and the Ember Buckler, which is definitely interesting overall, being able to turn into some sort of Vanguard style for either of these, but just playing Vanguard in a different way. I believe if we take a look at the Quake Maulers, you get Granite Vanguard with the current way that it's set up. You could possibly even have, I see the Vermiliers there, but you could possibly have maybe Mystic, or not Mystic, no, that's for the classic Revenant, Dust Revenant, and then we do have another variant of Magma Vanguard as well as a potential here with the Quake Maulers. Ember Buckler's up there, that's more so towards, I believe, not a Revenant kind of style. We do see Inferno, though, with the Tyro and the Seer up there. But then Steam is definitely the possibility. Some Colossus, possibly some Behemoth play maybe being done there. And the Strike Boomerang, and this is where we kind of start seeing some repeats from last week. So Strike Boomerang, I do see a lot more Inferno Arcanite really starting to show up nowadays. And it's been doing quite well now. The players that have been really strong at playing it and have those teams built now are doing a fantastic job now. And yeah, pairing it up with the Arctase or pairing it up with the Scoriox, that definitely makes sense. Interesting to see the links up there as well, but that's a 16% win rate there for the Strike Boomerang. The Elderwood Staff took quite the tumble compared to last week. It was first last week, if I do recall correctly, but the idea still applies. It's more so towards Aegis, it's more so towards Verdant or Toxic, depending on what kind of tank line you have, and just building an unbreakable like tank or corner kind of composition, whether it be with Wildfire, potentially with your Krunk and your Blazonite, or whether it happens to be with like a solo DPS like a Scoriox. Either way that you end up playing this thing, it's just extremely powerful. It's still good at holding the corners, but I feel like people have kind of gotten a little bit better at playing against it, which is maybe why we see such a drastic change from first down to fourth here this week. Then last but not least here, Sylphid Blade Mud is still as prominent as ever, still very strong, but maybe just not necessarily as dominant as it was last week. If I do recall correctly, it was maybe second or third on the list, and with that, again, you're still playing it basically the same. 9 times out of 10, you're probably attaching this to your Exalted Monk here, trying to give it Berserker and just supercharging essentially that Monk here to be absolutely nuts. But as we do see here, you can very well pair this up with the Jotun as well, get a little bit of a Frost Berserker going on as well. Maybe even bond yourself, it's not shown here, but bond yourself to a tank so you can get Behemoth for your Jotun or for your Seer. Definitely the potential, or definitely a potential way of doing it. Of course, it does look a little bit, I'm not going to go into too deep of a deep dive onto the top 2 and top 3, but this kind of looks a little bit more similar to what we were seeing in the last week, where the Elderwood Staff, if you're just trying to get into a top 3 position, this looks a little bit more similar to what we saw last week, where the The Flameborn staff's up there as well for some Inferno, Enchanter, or Wildfire kind of styles. We also see Sylphid Blade much higher. And only when we're shooting for the top 2 do we see the Rogue style. Rogues, majority of the time, going for the Quake Maulers, it seems, nowadays. But the Verdant Vanguard style, it is still there. People will still play it, but does not seem to be hitting anywhere near as hard as it used to. If I take a look at the most used weapons on the right-hand side of the screen here. There are my pop-ups. There we go. We take a look at the right-hand side here. So yeah, Quake Mauler's most used, Elderwood as well. But we got below the top 5. So Flame Warden 6th, the Tempest Lance getting a small boost in position. It was barely used, I believe, last week. Going to be up to 7th. Grove Sword in 8th, Arrow Edge 9th, and then the Vinebound Cleaver finally showing up there in 10th. So basically, just to kind of sum up the arena meta sort of things, sure, rogues are a little bit more prominent now, and Mud fell off ever so slightly, but again, going week to week, and with more players now starting to enter the arena, with some more, maybe either some old school compositions from teams that they've made in the past that they now want to level up, or people are just starting to get creative now. We're going to probably see some new things in the future as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next week brings us here for the arena meta. Next part is our current leaderboards. Give a shout out to all the players that have been absolutely grinding away and see if we can notice any sorts of changes in the current landscape of the leaderboards. For the arena side of thing, it's still being led by Junior 3, has about a 200 point or 200 rating lead over Afflunk and Bondaddy Ratty, who hold the podium once again here, with no Cacho, Hector, Never Lose. Round up the top 6, Dr. Spoon making some moves here this week, all the way up into the top 10, 7th to be specific. Same thing with Warrior Ace. Web3 had a quiet week, gonna fall down a little bit. Then we got Goofy. Then we have me, moved up to 11th. We on stream yesterday tried to push to the top 15. We absolutely got it, and then some, making it all the way to 11th. Ballistics right behind me though, gonna probably pass me later on today. We've got IG with M Benjamin in 13th, Lars in 14th, Marchenica from Team Apex going to be in 15th, Nocturnal in 16th, Nyx Hype 17th making some moves, Sprite falling down ever so slightly down to 18th, then Weaver and Kirito rounding out our top 20. In terms of who has the craziest average placement though, let's take a look, because those are the ones that I do predict to make some moves in the next week. We do see Dr. Spoon basically never losing still. That's absolutely devastating. A 1.1 average finish. Probably the craziest I've seen. Web3 as well, 1.14, but I just think they didn't necessarily play very much this week. So that's probably why they fell down a little bit, but that's all right. Goofy Ramfire, 1.3. That's pretty solid as well. How about some of our other up-and-comers? Nyx Hype with a 1.2 average placement. I imagine they're going to be upping up the rankings if they continue to play the rate that they are. And same thing with Kirito Hype with a 1.28 average rating. If we take a look at the Illuvium 0 leaderboards for this week and take a look and see who has just been absolutely leading the charge in terms of burning everything. It is you first going to take the lead as of this moment. Of course, the snapshot is in 8 hours. There's still chances for people to get their final bit of burning in before the rewards do end up coming in here. Because of course, the Illuvium 0 fuel burning, this is basically the only way that you could play to earn currently in Illuvium. And it's interesting to see some new names start to show up to, I guess, kind of try and capitalize on that. You first is going to be there, although Teresa up there as well in second. Jackie T.O. third. Yipizer, Rexel, Edris Hamiki, Genius Khan, Dr. Green Thumb, Alex from Monarch, Amaro Ray, Sergio ITC, Faddish Shop. We have Sepitera, we have Junior 3, Finn and Willow, Bora, Jub, Exuberant Ramp Fight, Strudel and Confident Pyrie going to round up the top 20 here for the Illuvium Zero leaderboard, which again, that snapshot happens, it looks like in just under 9 hours time. So if you want to go for one final burn, try and get yourselves up on terms of the Ethereum rewards, well, you have about 8.5 hours or so to make one final push there. In terms of leaderboards, that's basically it, though, for this week. We will hop on in here in just a moment's time. Just bear with me for 1 second. All right. That was the leaderboards. Let's take a look now, just a moment's time, at our top sales and other marketplace data around the Illuvium universe here. We'll take a look at top sales first for the Beyond side of things. Let's hop on in right here. And there's been enough action that it actually goes to the top 12. So a lot of just discs actually going to be taking up the majority of this. So this is basically the pack itself. So it's not even opened yet. But just the packs themselves going from anywhere in this top 12 from 24 all the way up to 62 bucks, depending on what kind of disc it is. A couple of the promos from like that I haven't seen in a long time, like the GameStop or the Team Liquid promo, making an appearance here today. In terms of the actual profile picture, though, we do have the one man slashing going for just under 25 USD. A bunch more discs being hovered around that $60 mark, but the actual top sale here for Illuvium Beyond in the last 7 days goes to this empowered Umber profile picture. And to be fair, this one is a damn beautiful one at that. I love the background. It works perfectly here with the Umber, and it looks like it's got a little bit of a shiny effect here to it as well. Los Popos, enjoy that one. Then take a look at our Illuvium Zero plot data in the last 7 days here. Lots of action once again, up to 12 this time by, with a lot of tier 2s kind of being on the market. It seems are being sold as of this moment. We do see a handful kind of hovering around that first, sorry, well, 120 for the first two, jumping all the way up to, say, the 163 mark here. It does look like we do have a tier 3 in here for just under 300. Then we do also have the most expensive sales here for Illuvium Zero here this week, with the top ones being a couple of tier 4 plots actually being sold here, with 1,345 currently being the top one of the week. Just these tier 4s coming on through. You're probably not ever going to see a tier 5. Heck, if I look for a tier 5 right now, it doesn't even show up on the market. And then I really quickly want to take a look at some additional data. I just got to pull up another website here in regards to how many sales do we have happening over the last little bit. Got to hop on over to Scoriox's app, of course, ScorioxStats.app. Let's take a look and see what we got here now. So the amount of plots traded in the last 7 days, we do have the 32 plots traded for the total volume of $7,111. So a much bigger jump here currently compared to what we saw last week in terms of the amount of actual plots being sold, as well as just the overall volume of it. A very huge jump, to say the least. Just a little bit of positive news, and sometimes things can just turn around so quickly. Real quick, let's hop on over. I might have skipped a step there ever so slightly, so let's hop on back over to our top sales. We got to take a look at top sales still for our Illuvials. Let's hop on in and take a look at that. Once again, our top 12 of the week, and take a look and see what we have here. So at the very bottom here for our list, we do have in 12th this Malura. I'm not going to go through every single one, but there's a couple that are pretty interesting here. Sergio actually picking up this Malura nearly perfect, to be honest, just missing a little bit of attack speed. Yeah, 96 TPI, incredible Malura. Nice pickup here, Sergio. And let me refresh and see what that went for once again. That was a $21 pickup. Very, very nice. We do also see this Archelian. If I recall correctly, this one's actually a Dark Hollow. I do want to see this. This is now owned by Ballistic, so right behind me actually in the ranked leaderboards, they pick up this Dark Hollow beautiful Archelian, which does have the tank stats necessary, just missing a little bit on the Omega power and then missing a lot of attack speed. But let's be honest, it's a Dark Hollow. This thing is an absolute beauty. Congrats on your pickup. Rounding out the top 7 here, I do want to take a look at one more, because this one caught me off guard. For 24 bucks for an Exalted Gorilla, this thing is actually perfect. A 100% Exalted Gorilla going for, I would honestly say, only 24 bucks. I feel like that was maybe a bit of a steal and a fantastic pickup there for OJ to find that one. Let's get into our top 6, why don't we? We do have a Riley actually showing up here for 34. Do want to quickly take a look at this one. This one now being owned by our current ranked leader, Junior 3, a 99 TPI. Riley, absolutely incredible, just barely missing some Omega power. Nice pickup there, Junior. Junior playing a lot of mud as of late, so where that Riley is going to fit, I am very, very curious. We do then have in 4th place for 35 bucks this Slashin, now owned by Efren. An absolute monster as well, just barely missing some attack speed, and otherwise would be perfect, but still an absolute devastating menace. Congrats, Efren, on your pickup. Squawk, hello, good morning. Hopefully you're having a great day. We take a look then at this Seer, going just under 50 bucks here for this Seer. Efren also finding their pickup here, a 92 TPI. Seer in this instance has the tank stats necessary, just missing a little bit on the damage and Omega power side, but still can pack quite the punch, so congrats once again there, Efren. Let's see if this keeps on going. Is Efren just essentially going on an absolute spree here? We'll have to see as we go over to this Jotun. Efren again is going to be picking this one up. A 94 TPI Jotun. So guess what? Efren has been tired of being pushed around. They are getting all of the heavy artillery. Hell, this one's almost already level 60. Okay, note to self, start taking air units when going up against Efren, because I do not want to be seen on the wrong side of this Jotun. Sephiroth, hello, welcome. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you for coming in. And then last but not least here, our number 1, a Seer that went for 100 by Kirito hype, actually. Look at this beauty here, 95 TPI, just missing a tiny bit of resistances, but otherwise perfect. So Kirito needed a solid front line. Well, guess what? They have it now. Congrats on your pickup. Absolute awesome to see. So still plenty of action going on through. In fact, we'll break down the additional marketplace data here in just a moment's time. If we take a look at our alluvials, just how many have been traded, because honestly it feels like there's definitely been a lot more, but it may not necessarily be the case here. So over the last 7 days, still a little over 1,000 alluvials traded over the last 7 days, with 1,156 to be specific, with the overall value of these alluvials being dropped a little bit. If we remember last week, we did have a lot more tier 5 sales, with I believe there was maybe 2 phosphoruses in that list, alongside a couple like very, very valuable tier 4s. So seeing the volume go down kind of makes sense as to what was being sold. And then in terms of the average sale for the tier 5s, what was the most traded thing? I mean, I said there was a lot less tier 5s, but honestly, it looks like the data here from Scoriox's app is actually going to tell me the opposite. Where there was more tier 5s, but maybe just not at as high as a price. Maybe there was just a lot more floor action compared to what we saw in the past. Because yeah, nearly or doubling and then some the amount of sales from the last 7 days. So there is definitely more action here on the market. I imagine especially over the last 2 days. I wonder if there's a way that I can change that. I don't think it'll let me see it as of this moment, but I wonder with the announcement of experience being added back to the arena, if that then translated and more people going shopping as well. Because while the price has gone down, the amount of trades overall, for everything except tier 3s, seems to have gone up. Cool to see, though, nonetheless here. Hop on over here in just a second. I do want to hop and take a look and see the current state of Illuvium 0. The entry level, I remember from last week, was about $36 to get started with a tier 1 plot. It's not changed too much, but it has gone up a little bit. Currently, for entry level floor price for a tier 1 plot, it does look like we're hovering around that $40 range, up from $36 last week. $35 on a tier 0 free to play. There we go, Zephyros. That's exactly what I was looking for. You're absolutely capitalizing. You found that and took advantage of that opportunity. The scarcity was there and you absolutely clutched up. Love to see it. Scoriox TSG, hello. I'm glad you like it. Thank you. Now let's take a look real quick at our tier 2 entry levels. Of course, if I remember correctly, from I believe it was Zephyros, who of course, Celeris in game, one of the top Illuvium 0 players currently in the game, did say that I believe it was tier 2s are about the best value that you can get by or per cost. Correct me if I'm wrong, Zephyros. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that is definitely another way you can go for in terms of entry point. And we do see 91 bucks is actually pretty cheap here. This Halcyon Sea is definitely an outlier, but it's looking, well, same thing with this Abyssal Basin, 105 bucks basically to get into a tier 2. Meanwhile, everything else is about 116 and above. So, a little bit of an opportunity for everyone who wants to scoop those two up. But the main, I guess the floor price overall being at 91 as of this moment. How about a tier 3 when we start looking at some of the juicier ones? Bought some tier 0 hollows yesterday, and very nice, Squawk. Congratulations. They're on tier 4 level for cost and generation, so that makes sense to me. And it's much cheaper to get into. When we take a look at our tier 3s this time, or tier 3 plots, about 315 bucks seems to be our current floor. But there is quite the massive jump here from 315 all the way up to 352. So two little outliers here potentially available for a nice quick scoop. And last but not least, let's take a look at our tier 4s. Of course, a part of some of our top sales from the last 7 days. And currently the floor price for this one is $12.68. But again, we are seeing some pretty significant jumps here, a little bit all over the place. I'm not going to say that this is cheap by any means. We're talking about thousands of dollars here for our land plot. But for those that are interested, we do have quite the outlier here with this Brightland Steps, $12.68. Shard Bluff Labyrinth here, we got 2 of them in a row from $13.38, and then a massive jump up to $14.08 if you're looking to go crazy and get yourself into a tier 4 spot. I definitely need to learn your app a little bit better there, Scoriox, 100%. Because I have showed it off on stream many a times. In fact, I did have it pulled up here when I was talking about the Alluvials. But I just need a little bit more time to learn everything, if I do recall correctly. Now, when we move off of the Illuvium 0 side of things, we could then take a look at our Fighting Fit level Alluvials here. So again, what I end up doing, what I classify as Fighting Fit. So that's any alluvial from TPI 85 or higher. While there might be plenty of alluvials for sale that are lower than that, at the end of the day, if somebody nowadays is probably going in to actually buy an alluvial, they probably want one that they're not going to have to worry about replacing sometime down the line. Or if they do end up replacing it, it better be like godlike, right? So About 85, I think, is about that mark where people kind of start to look for overall. Excuse me, sorry. Yeah, 7,000 Illuvium 0 volume is where it's at, absolutely. Been a good couple of days, that's for sure. But in terms of tier 1s, it looks like Rota is basically the cheapest fighting fit alluvial that you can find as of this moment, just kind of being hovered around 14 cents a pop. But I do also want to take a look at this once again. So this was the style that I did last week where I'm looking for scarcity. I want to see which alluvials have the least amount of fighting fit alluvials available, which again, while it might say there's hundreds available for certain alluvials, are they actually worth your time in buying? So that's what I'm most concerned about. Here for the tier 1 side of things, these are going to be the most abundant. So like currently where it says listed as 159, these are 159 alluvials that are at least 85 TPI. So lots of fighting fit of alluvials available here in the tier 1 side of things. It does look like the mud units though, or at least the later stages of these mud units here, like say this Exalted Apon, only 38 available compared to say like the Atlas that had 88. Plenty of Dodos available, plenty of Drop Bears it does look like as well. Once again, the mud unit's a little bit harder to find though, it looks like, just mud being so strong right now. Lots of people looking to fuse and make some absolute monsters. And we are seeing like only 70 available for the Gorilla. We only have 54 for the Exalted Monk Gear, which tends to be the main carry for those mud teams. So fair enough, those ones getting kind of picked off the board. Rileys, we did see a Riley actually get picked up in our top sales, where there was one, I believe, that was 95 or 92 TPI. That was quite high, quite interesting to see. Sephoris around the same line. So it does appear, I think, what was the 50s, the greater or the Exalted Monk Gear, the most or the scarcest of the tier 1s. No, actually false. The Exalted Apon is currently the most sought after or scarce in terms of fighting fit alluvials for tier 1. Let's take a look at our Lynxes. Our fighting fit Lynxes, we do have 165 available. Of course, Lynxes are just an absolute early game monster. Players absolutely love to throw one or two of them in early, from what I've noticed, and especially if you have a really, really strong one with great TPI, with great level. When you're still trying to figure out exactly which kind of composition you want to go for, throw on two Lynxes and kind of let them help you with your early game is definitely one way to do it. In terms of the stage 2 alluvials, it looks like the Empath variant is the lowest as of this moment. Let's drop that out. Get some more space here. There we go. So, with only 27 of the Virtuous Lynxes available that are fighting fit, potentially a little bit of scarcity there. Not terrible, though. Going to quickly take a look and see what the floor is of this. So, $1.75, or excuse me, $1.76, it looks like, with a massive jump after the fact. So you find a good one of these Lynxes, that's at least $1, if not $2, going into your pocket if you find the right seller. But of course, with there being so many Lynxes and not being able to access every single type of Lynx in every single encounter, in every single arena match, it's not necessarily something that people are focusing on still. Like, to the point where it's, take a look, the Zephyr or the Nimble Zephyr Lynx and Nimble Stoic Lynx, only 15 and 13 available. And we'll notice this all the way down, that there's just very, very few of these fully evolved Lynxes that are actually fighting fit and that are actually out on the market. If I could take a look at, say, this, which one had 5? There was the one with 6 here. Okay, no, there was, Virtuous Zephyr Lynx. If I take a look, only 5 of them listed. A fighting fit one is at least going to be $2, so a nice, quick, easy pickup. In fact, I think that's probably cheap, all things considered. Again, not financial advice, but I mean, still going for Lynxes or scooping up some Lynxes to maybe Hang on to might be an interesting way to go. But as you can see, trying to find a fighting fit Lynx seems to be a little bit difficult. So if you happen to run into one, you are absolutely in luck. Let's take a look at some tier 3s. Okay, tier 3 wise, we're having quite the abundance once again. There's like plenty of anteaters. The Vermiliere, the only one anywhere close to what I would call scarce. Once it starts getting around that 50 mark, that's when I would start saying it's maybe a little bit scarce or a little bit contested. So Vermiliere is right there. Everything else is looking pretty well fine. We're seeing a similar situation here with the Fennec Foxes, here with the Winks, Quinks, and Gazatep. Moto Dragon's getting lots of usage currently in the arena. I know I basically use one every single game, and it's going to be probably relatively scarce here. Blotto, for example. Let's take a look at Blotto. Of course, you can sometimes, I know I sometimes get lucky running into these every once in a while in a stage 1 run in the overworld. And if you happen to find one, I mean, these ones are in the 90s, so there's absolutely no alluvials in that 85 to 91 range. And at the very minimum, it's looking like 10 bucks. So I'd argue that the Blottos are in need, but one also in need, I think is actually right next here. This entire penguin line looks absolutely scarce as of this moment. Of course, the Slashin, probably one of the most iconic carries currently in Illuvium, and it's one that a lot of players tend to be going for in regards to trying to make sure that they have a very, very strong one, have a good one built. Let's take a look at even just the little baby. The little baby Slap-In, just a little 86 TPI penguin is going for $150. I'd argue you could find those in abundance. If you happen to go into a stage 2 run in the Abyssal Basin, I swear you could probably walk away with 5 penguins. It's just a matter of finding the ones that are fighting fit. With our Stabbin', let's take a look at that as well here. $7 floor here for a fighting fit Stabbin', and it doesn't even necessarily have to have the attack damage necessary to get that done. This one here just has the attack speed and a little bit of attack damage. But my goodness, $7 here for a Stabbin'. Similar scenario, hop into a stage 2 run, might be able to walk away with 1 or 2 of those. Again, it's just a matter of finding one that's fighting fit. And then the Holy Grail here, the Death Pengu themselves. The floor for a fighting fit Slashin' is actually cheaper than a Stabbin', oddly enough. Just under $6, but you do see there is quite the little jump here from our second penguin here, from 7 going towards 11. Oddly enough there that the music went to something in regards to birds as I am hovering the penguin. That was not planned, I promised. That was weird. Let's go back here and take a look at the rest of our tier 3s. Yeah, only 25 Slashins available. That's kind of crazy. We have been seeing much more Inferno Arcanite play, which means the Poodle Moth would be much more valuable. And it does look like we are going to see the Monarchs. Fighting fit Monarchs are absolutely in need. Let's take a look at their current floor price here for a fighting fit Poodle Moth, or the fighting fit Monarch. We're looking at about $9 here for the absolute floor. When we get into the 90s, now we're starting to talk about double digits here. A very, very quick jump from about 10 to 14, if not higher. If there ends up being a pickup in, or if the usage of Inferno Arcanite goes even higher, I imagine there could be an opportunity there in terms of maybe raising a couple fighting fit Monarchs. With the rise of Mud also comes the rise of the Scorpion, usually one of their best partners, considering they are also a Berserker with this Rip Lance. If we take a look from the very, very bottom, if we look at the Riptor, it's about $150 for a fighting fit little guy. But what about when we start getting a little bit higher? Once we start talking about Riptorus, when we start talking about Rip Lance, what does it end up starting to look like? Considering especially Rip Lance, only 31 available. And I do believe Riplance was on the tops, or one of our top sales from last week, if I recall correctly. Currently, it's looking like, for the most part, the floor is about $7, with the exception of this one here, $5.26. Just one little outlier there. And then how about Riplance? If you were to try and focus in on Riplance being your carry, you want it fighting fits, but you don't want to absolutely blow the budget. What's it looking like? If my computer would stop putt-putting around here and get moving, we'll take a look at that in just a moment's time. While we have this loading break, yes, Zephyros, thank you. Smash the thumbs up if you happen to be on the YouTube side of things. Absolutely. Regardless of which platform you happen to be on. Of course, I'm just a little guy, right? I was extremely excited just to pass the 100 subscriber mark on YouTube just over the holidays. But regardless of the number, I'm just happy y'all are here, and I'm enjoying myself. And I look forward to much, much more to come. In terms of Illuvium, in my opinion, it's still early, and I'm still early. One of the few times it's okay to be early. In terms of the Riplance, let's take a look. Oh, a little hollow guy. Look at this guy here. 85 for $17. My goodness. We haven't seen much in regards to double digits here with the stage 3 side of things, especially into the 20s. I think Slashin' was really the only other one that was kind of starting to break this level, but it looks like Riplances are absolutely in need, and they're getting scooped up quickly. Only the one 85, and then everything else is 90 plus in terms of TPI, and all of those ones that are 90 plus on TPI are at least $20. Almost through here with our tier 3s. In terms of the sloth line, they're looking pretty healthy as of right now. Exactly 50 available. The rise of Verdant Vanguard being outside of Leviathan, I think people kind of scooped those up a long time ago. Not necessarily too urgent on the sloth line, it looks like. Meanwhile, Malura, a little bit of a similar scenario here, kind of popped off with the old Verdant Vanguard craze. Yeah, Malura is a little bit in need, but everything else seems to be kind of fine. Let's take a look at Malura anyway. It is below 50, so we'll take a quick peek. And yeah, you're looking at about $2. Wait, no, never mind. That's just an absolute outlier here. You'd be looking at like $7, but this one just happens to be at 281. So there's a nice quick steal pickup if somebody is missing a strong Malura to kind of hold the front line there for their rogues. Pick that up and steal that real quick. My goodness. Now let's take a look at our tier 4s. I gotta reset my trait purity. I hit the wrong button. Okay. Now this is where things start to get a little bit more scarce. With tier 4s and tier 5s, of course, much, much rarer to find. If I'm just casually going through a stage 1 run, I'm probably only finding one tier 4 at like maybe one in every 8 or 9 runs or something like that. So to find an actual good one that's fighting fit on top of that is going to be rare. Starting off here with the Mammoth, if we take a look at the middle stage evolution here, 45 currently listed. To find a fighting fit Matu, you're looking at least, well, on average it'd be about $9. We see one here for 4, but for the most part, like, definitely worth your time. Definitely, if you see one of these out in your overworld runs, take a peek, because you never know. If it happens to have great stats, it could very well be a fantastic member for your team, or maybe find somebody else who would absolutely love to have it for one of their teams. And this is where we start getting into some pretty juicy double digits with these fully evolved tier 4s. Currently the floor showing at 28, but a very, very quick jump up to 35 once we start looking at 90 TPI Mammoths. And I imagine when we get to like the Umber, for example, it'll be expensive as well. However, at the same time though, the flares did make up for 3 of our top sales in this past 7 days. So I do definitely want to take a look at it right now, even with just the little guy. If you happen to find a flare, there is only 53 fighting fit flares out there currently on the marketplace, going for about $3 a pop right now. Maybe if you happen to be running one of those stage 2 runs in the Crimson Wastes, maybe you may get lucky. How about our middle stage? How about our Singe? About $10 currently for a fighting fit Singe. And how about our Seer? And we're looking at more so into the high 20s, into the 30s once again. But we did see like Seer's usage kind of start to pick up once again because Inferno Arcanite's kind of coming back. So there's not very many like before we start kind of cracking into what I would argue is the maybe a little bit over the top, but yet from what we saw in the sales, there are Seers selling for about $100 right now. I think there was 1 or 2. So Seer's definitely sought after, and people, at least so far, were willing to pay for it. If you happen to find a good Seer, treasure that thing. Or find someone who'll treasure it for you. With only 21 of those Seers available, it's a little bit rough. How about down here towards our polar bears? I want to take a look at, say, the middle stage evolution in this one. Only 42 fighting fit polar bears available, the Jokels, and at the very, very minimum, it's going to be $10 for you. But, of course, with it being a carry unit, this is on a lot of people's radars. So I imagine, especially if you Behemoth usage goes up, because that's another thing. Seer could go in with Behemoths as well. So if you happen to see more of the Polar Bear plus Seer kind of combinations, I imagine this will go up here a little bit as well. Of course, not financial advice as always, but just how quickly we're seeing jumps in prices here. A good Jokel could probably land you a long way, even if you don't go for Jotun. I've had many games where Jokel just kind of carries for me, for the majority of the game, only kind of barely falling off once we get to that late game, where I'm really, really wishing I had this guy right here if I happen to have a Jotun. Jotun, I know one of my weakest carries currently, going for similar pricing actually compared to the Jokel, with 22 being the floor, but quickly jumping up 35, 40, 44 and onward after that. In terms of the Blazonite, this was an interesting one that we saw last week. I don't know what it is about Blazonite, but nobody can find this damn thing, and if they can, it's usually not... Excuse me. Oh, that goes out of nowhere. My apologies. But if you find one, it usually is not fighting fit, but currently there's only 15 of them available. $24 and onward is the pricing as well. So while there is a scarcity here, I would argue that the price is actually kind of modest compared to most alluvials. Alright, how about our favorite little machine gun with Inferno Arcanite rising up once again? I imagine Furiox and Scoriox will be right in the right on the radar's dead center, the bullseye, so to speak, of everybody's team composition. And we're seeing, like, even at the very, very floor, a fighting fit Furiox going for about 15. But how about the Scoriox? I know personally I would absolutely love to pick up a new fighting fit Scoriox here for myself. My current Scoriox is only 37 TPI. It's just a weak little guy. Meanwhile, these fighting fit ones, at the very, very minimum, you're shilling out $31 here for a Scoriox that's about 87 TPI, and it only goes up from there. Not as scarce as, say, the Blazonite, but more people definitely have been picking this one up, at least so it would seem. Definitely much more expensive, nearly, or not double, but considerably higher than the Blazonite. And I tell you what, if we see the rise of Inferno Arcanite, it means we're going to then see the rise of Steam as well. Let's take a look at the Rake. One of the other iconic carries here of the game. Or actually $7 here, a little bit of an outlier. Everything else seems to be 12 plus. How about the Umber? Take a look at the Umber. And now we're talking. Holy smokes. Being able to find a fully evolved Fighting Fit Umber at the very, very least is going to net you 45 if it ends up selling. But we're seeing how quickly this spikes up in price. Right after the 45, we're seeing 63. And then we're actually talking about when we get into the 90s, 100 plus bucks here for these Umbers. Definitely a fan favorite. Lots of players love running the Steam comps, at least back in the day. Or I say back in the day, but it may have only been a couple weeks ago. I know personally, whenever I see the Aqua Blaster as a weapon in my shop, I get excited. Even though my Umber is only like 57 TPI, I can still definitely win a game off that. Now, the last but not least here for the Tier 3 side of things, a very scarce Illuvial, actually, ends up being the Geyser line. So let's take a look at the Geyser. There was only 9 of them available. Which, of course, even though this thing doesn't... Holy Christ. Look at this for the Geyser. The Geyser, of course, you need basically all of your stats as best to perfect. I mean, you always want all of your stats as close to perfect as possible. But for the Omega, where it does take other stats, not just Omega power, into consideration, even something like movement speed, where even though the guy doesn't move, the movement speed stat translates into the Omega, or into the Omega's power. Same thing with attack speed and attack damage. It doesn't attack, but it goes into the Omega. So finding a good Geyser is actually really tough, it looks like. So if you happen to have a good one, Fighting Fit ones are at the minimum going for 70. Let me take a look at Flood. I know I kind of did this in backwards order. Take a look and see what we got here. So this one is much, much lower. So getting a Flood, at least, this is a little bit more in line with what we've been seeing with the Tier 4s so far. Like high single digits going into the teens. But yeah, if you're like trying to get a Geyser for whatever reason, it's extremely scarce. So if you happen to find a good one, treasure it. Last but not, or almost last but not least, I do want to take a look at Tier 0s at the very, very end. Because again, like we saw in our show last week, the scarcity and the fact that it's a free-to-play area with Tier 0s doesn't mean people actually do it. And it led to a lot of scarcity. Zephyros, I believe it was in chat earlier, said they had gotten a pretty decent sale, actually. Yeah, 35 bucks on a Tier 0 earlier. So just because it's free to play doesn't mean there isn't any value there. So I do want to take a look at that. So let's take a look at a Fighting Fit Goliath here. Only 17 currently on the marketplace. And at the very, very minimum, you're going to be paying 31 bucks. Of course, these are the hardest Illuvials to find in the game. Tier 5s, extremely, extremely rare. Yes, they can show up in Stage 1 runs, but it's so unbelievably rare that you definitely don't want to bank on it that way. Oh, my bad. I misread you then there, Zephyros. My apologies. The weakling volume. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. But still, you can find value there, at the very, very least. My apologies for misunderstanding. Now, in terms of the Titan Ore, finding a Fighting Fit Titan Ore currently is definitely going to cost you a little bit. 175 is currently the floor, with very, very fast spikes. There's only 8 of them available, and people realize that, and they're absolutely pricing it accordingly, going way up into the multi-hundreds. Got a Titan Ore in a Stage 1 run last week. That's incredible. Nice find there, Squawk. You do have one that could sell for that, though. Oh, interesting. Interesting, interesting. But yeah, point being, though, you can still find value with your tier zeros, absolutely. And I do want to take a look and see what ones are scarce at this moment. Adorito. So finding, at least personally, I've been running into a lot more mystics, but it's not necessarily translating on the... Oh no, maybe it technically does, because of course the green empath staff. So yeah, mystics are being played a little bit more often. So the deer line's going to be sought after at least a little bit more. We do see borderline 60 bucks here for the Adorito. And if we're going up to Adorius, take a look at what we got going on here. Heck, even the baby, there's only 10. Hang on a second. Pause. There's only 10 Adors available right now. So this is just the baby. 35 bucks minimum for an Ador. Not evolved or anything. This is just the baby deer or baby elk that you could absolutely just catch raw out of a tier 1 run if you're lucky. Going for 35, and with only 6 Adoriuses being shown currently in the marketplace, at the very minimum, a fighting fit Adorius is going for 105, and it gets expensive after that. My goodness. It does not... Someone's looking to become a healer. I'm very, very thankful I got my Adorius long time ago. As someone who plays a lot of healers and MMOs, I always was drawn to the healers. I'm glad I've got my Adorius. Granted, it's definitely not what I would consider fighting fit. We take a look at the pistol shrimp. So the little Alfie. Oh, 1 second. Let's take a look here. So a fighting fit Alfie, at the very, very minimum, we're looking at 35 and breaking into the 40s. But of course, with there being 17 listed, I imagine there's going to be a spike at some point. And sure enough, so from 52, we jump all the way up to 105. Let's take a look at Sinolf. Of course, Sinolf definitely valued. I love Sinolf because that's where you start getting Invoker in the arena. But I definitely don't have a good one, and you can tell people are scooping these guys up. 77 bucks at the very, very minimum here for a fighting fit Sinolf, with it quickly jumping towards the hundreds, if not multi-hundreds. And with only... Oh, it's this guy here. So still, just like last week, I believe the Duolef was the only one where there was only one available. No fighting fit Duolefs available outside of this beautiful 91 TPI hollowed out Duolef. Yeah, they're currently asking for 21,000 for that. Well, I doubt that'll be sold, but at the same time, it is an absolute beauty, so I get it. If we take a look at our Pterodactyl, of course, our Ramphite. Again, Inferno being much, much more sought after, and it's reflecting in the price it looks like. Fighting fit Ramphite going for 85, if not higher, quickly spiking into the 140s. How about Ramphire themselves, the big boy? Let's see how this one ends up looking. Immediately going into the multi-hundreds, scooped up all the double digits and only into multi-hundreds. 265 is the cheapest, and it immediately spikes up to 421 and then into the thousands. Ramphite is an absolute monster and is very, very scarce and sought after currently, so it would seem. Again, not financial advice, but if you happen to find a Ramphite that is fighting fit, you better treasure that thing, my goodness. Okay, the squid line now. Currently, all of them are under 20. A very baseline squiz that is fighting fit is 10 bucks by itself, which is pretty incredible. Of course, you can just kind of find those, especially if you happen to be just wandering around Brightland Steps. Have your best chance of finding one of those. Of course, depending on which stage you're going on, betters your chances. Octius as well, even though there's only the 13 listed, there is one going for 21 bucks. I'd consider that a steal, because as you can see, right after that, immediately jumping into the 40s, if not the hundreds. And now, how about one of my favorite alluvials here in the game, Mephisto. I know my Mephisto, personally, I think is about 50-something TPI. It has garbage stats with the exception of one thing. Maxed out Omega Power, which is exactly what I need it for anyway. So I'll gladly be happy to stick around with that guy, even if the TPI number doesn't look too great. But as you can see here, these are the only Mephistos on the market, and at the very, very minimum, you're looking similar pricing style as the Ramfire, immediately into the multi-hundreds, if not the thousands, including a perfect 100 TPI Mephisto, going for just under 9,000. That is incredible. Last but not least, the Terror Bird, what kind of filled our top sales last week. How does that translate into this week? Let's take a look at Phosphorus in particular. There's only 6 of them available. And there's one sitting here for 52 bucks, actually. Meanwhile, everything else is 350 or higher, including... Oh my... Okay. I might have to call a spade and say delusion is delusion, but at the same time, I get it. There's scarcity there. And Phosphorus, of course, is an absolute incredible carry. I want to take a look at Phorus as well real fast, because there's under 20 Terror Birds available. And this is not even fully evolved. This is into the hundreds almost already, right off the rip. Because all of these Phoruses are just getting picked up so quickly. 98 USD for the floor. We'll wrap things up taking a look at our tier zeros. We'll go through the community. And then we'll talk about the Risk2Earn doc. That did just come out, I think it was last week. That kind of has the game concept, the design concept of what is being labeled as Illuvium Deathmatch, the Risk2Earn style kind of game. We'll definitely hop into that very, very soon here. Now, of course, I did want to take a look at the Fighting Fit Tier Zeros, because like I was explaining last week, these are oddly enough some of the scarcest alluvials in the entire game. Even though these are the ones that free-to-play players can go run out and pay nothing and go capture. As we can see here, I again still have this same type of filters as my last couple of analyses here. And we have, in terms of 85 TPI or higher, even the baby Atipos are what I would definitely argue is scarce. Only 13 available, for example, here for this lesser Eratipo. So why should people actually give a crap about this? When we have these alluvials that are in the early game, having a strong set of tier zeros is still going to be, again, the difference maker between dominating your early game or getting crushed in it. And if it's good enough, maybe they stay on your team past the early game. Maybe they come in here with the mid game. Heck, use them in the late game as well, especially since they can add a little bit more to your synergies. Like, this is a completely free-to-play Atipo that is going for about $3 right now. Yes, it is annoying that you don't know exactly which version of the Atipo or of that tier 0 you're going to get. But when it comes to tournaments, when it comes to late game, top-level competition, people will want these tier zeros. So I definitely urge you to take a look at a tier 0 run every once in a while, because it very well might be worth it for you. A Fighting Fit Greater Atipo? Greater Eratipo? The floor is 49? That's absolute insanity. And this is talking about the Atipo, which is some of the harder, I'd argue one of the harder tier zeros to actually properly use here. I know personally, if I were to look at, there's literally no exalted fire Atipos that are fighting fit right now. That is impressive. Let's look at the greater one real quick here, because I know personally the fire Atipo is one of the ways that I can trigger shock. So it is something that I would absolutely love to have, and heck, you might just get $5 for it. Like, that's all right. It was free to get. Go chase it. Now, I know a lot of people like the Grocco. They'll have a Grocco onto the team for another tank, because just the AoE stun is still very, very valuable. But take a look here for the most part. These Dokkas even 0 exalted earth, 1 exalted fire. There is definitely value still to be had in these free-to-play runs. So like how Zephyros was saying here, I have an Alluvial that probably, or I have a tier 0 that probably could go for that. Well, there you go. Granted, yes, it's going to be the difference maker in the late game or late version's top level of competition. It may not necessarily be the piece that makes or breaks your average ranked run. But when we start talking about tournaments, it very well might give you that extra little bit of edge that you need. It's not going to let me just scroll now. Okay, let's try this again. Grocco. Yeah, so here we go. So these Groccos, people are more than likely going to keep on their team for at least a little bit longer on average for tier 0s because of how good they are in terms of tank. We have the 6 greater earth Groccos here, for example, that are fighting fit. $28 is the minimum for the earth one. There is no exalted earth Groccos that are fighting fit right now. Take a look at the grass one. Only 1 greater and 1 exalted available. So once again, this is my weekly reminder to the community that don't sleep on these tier 0s. A lot of people like to call these things useless, but I guarantee you it'll help you. And it's free to do. Yes, it can be tedious. Running around constantly searching for the top level alluvials is a tough task, but if you happen to be doing it and you happen to run into one, it could absolutely be worth your time. Oh. Marketplace, of course, always takes, over the last 2 ones, definitely takes a long time to get through. But I hope it gave a rough, at least a rough breakdown. I don't necessarily have all the data or all the specifics for like forecasting things and anything along those lines, but at the same time, I don't necessarily know if I want to be specifically doing that anyway. But I just like going on through and seeing what these alluvials are worth, what's selling, what seems to be low, and that'll kind of continue to be the idea here for the marketplace. Just to give an idea for those where the Illuvidex is their favorite Illuvium game. In terms of the community, of course, I do have this designated community tab for anybody to shout out who's been actually streaming Illuvium and who has been making content for it. I do a weekly breakdown and kind of essentially a weekly thank you of sorts. And we'll shout out basically anybody that is here. That being said, for streaming on Twitch for Illuvium, it's just me, and then shoutouts to Big Man as well for streaming some Illuvium. And for the YouTube side of things, in terms of YouTube content, let's play a little game, why don't we? How many videos in this category can we go through without hearing play to earn, crypto price prediction, or token? Spoiler alert, we can't even get past the first video. So basically, let's see. Is there anything in here, I have this labeled of the last 7 days, is there anything in here that has absolutely nothing to do with play to earn or crypto? Of course, we did have the download there from Scoriox. Scoriox was in chat a little bit earlier in TSG. Shout out to them. I think we have an episode happening tomorrow as well, potentially. I didn't get the notification yet if we do, but I would imagine. Got Illuvium themselves making posts. Can a token. There is one here in a different language. Is it worth playing? We've got more poly market, betting, and that kind of shenanigans. Token. Play to earn. ILV, play to earn. As you can tell, I would absolutely love to see more Illuvium content for, the actual game. So, if anybody does feel like making something, you'll have my thanks and you'll have my shout out here on stream every single week if you do. I am basically what feels like in terms of gameplay itself. A lot of times it feels like I'm the only one doing it like somewhat consistently. There's that, and then of course there is Scoriox's guides as well. So do not get me wrong. That's not meant to be a shot by any means. But yeah, in terms of actual gameplay, there is nothing out there. So what this says to me is I need to make another Illuvitale or something like that sometime soon. But I actually do have a couple of fun video ideas that I just need to sit down and actually get to work on. But of course, probably the topic that a lot of y'all have been here for, and what I'm very excited on looking into right here, right now, of course, is in regards to the Risk2Earn game. So currently being labeled as Illuvium Deathmatch. This was kind of in a town hall and in the Discord labeled as an area where people can take the Illuvials that they have, ones that they own, put it into basically a battle royale. And then, without having any sort of control over the Illuvial itself, last Illuvial standing essentially wins, and there could be prizing, but most importantly, at least in terms of the town hall, they had mentioned the Illuvial would be burned, which means permadeath, so it would be completely gone. And my takes on it. So I'm going to go over the document in just a second, but I want to give my mindset towards everything here first. Because, of course, I'm in a very, very interesting position where if this ends up being an entertaining game, I'm, of course, going to want to cover it. There are a few things that I am scared about, though. I love the aspect of risk in games. Of course, I played a ton of Eve online. I understand that just a simple going from one station to the next station to transfer some of my goods could end up in my ship being blown up and losing everything if you're not careful. I don't mind risk. I find that interesting. I find that entertaining. I find that fun. What I do not find fun is gambling and gacha mechanics. So anything along the lines of, like, say, a Rise of Kingdoms, for example, where if I wanted to get a character, or say something like a Genshin Impact, if I wanted a specific character, but the only way that I can get that character and play that character is to pay money onto a button, hit the button, and inevitably not get the character that I want, meaning that I cannot get the character that I want to play, thus I can't make the team that I want to play. That kind of stuff I cannot stand. But I don't mind trading cards. Well, what's the difference? You're ripping a pack. And what you get is random. Doesn't that make the same sense? No, because I can outright buy the single. So, like say, in theory, like, oh, you should have a problem with the auto drone runs then, right? No, because if I wanted a Furiox, I can go buy a Furiox. I'm not stuck opening pack after pack after pack, buying and getting all this crap that I don't want to then get a Furiox. Like, yes, I can open the packs if I want to, but if I want to specifically get the thing I want to use, I can buy it. So that I don't have a problem with. So how does that translate into the Illuvium Deathmatch? Let's take a look. So we'll kind of go through this together. Of course, this is currently viewable in the Discord, in the Illuvium Discord as well. I believe it's under one of the feedback sections currently. Okay. So the concept is that this is a high-stakes battle royale where players choose an alluvial to fight against other players' alluvials within a limited perimeter. Strategy, skill, and survival push to the limits, with permanent consequences or glorious rewards for every challenger. Top survivors and killers earn valuable real money and in-game rewards, making each fight or each match a thrilling fight for glory and real stakes. So it looks like, at least based off of this first part here, the one thing that's kind of interesting to note is that it's not just the last alluvial standing, but also most eliminations seems to be something to note. In terms of genres, of course, Risk2Earn, Battle Royale strategy, and then they're just outright saying this is gambling. Like 100% this is gambling. So, I'm nervous. In terms of platforms, they're looking to maybe even make this mobile as well. That would definitely be interesting. The unique selling points, Risk2Earn mechanic combined with the Illuvium IP, and of course the ownership of said alluvials. While this delivers a gambling first experience, it lays the foundation for future game modes, enhance traditional gaming side. User experience has been designed to be simple, making the game accessible to a broad spectrum of players. If it proves successful, introduce a game mode that expands the in-fight possibilities and allowing players to command and boost their alluvials during combat. So this is very, very interesting to me here. If it does, of course, it's not going to be in the game right off the rip, but here's what I would want to see. I love the idea of like the player agency side of things. Like, I don't mind risk as long as there is a choice that I can make strategically to introduce into the fight here. So say something like this here, we're allowing players to command and boost their alluvials during combat. I would love to see something along the lines of like a behavioral option. Like play aggressively, play defensively. Or they're talking about boosts here. If there happens to be boosts on the map, look for boosts. Something along those lines. What I do not want to see is, oh, you're losing the fight. Pay $5 for a health boost. That will destroy the game for me. Again, I'm not saying that's what that says. But this specifically scares me. I hope it's done tastefully, if it does end up coming on through. So it's a core element, or some core elements and some mechanics here. So the challenger is in reference to the alluvial that you picked. The jackpot is the prize. Prize pool specific rewards based on fees. Okay, sure. That's all right. Entry fees going into the prize pool. Fair enough. That's fine. Winner, the challenger left standing, not exposed to permadeath. Only the winner gets a chance at winning. A chance at winning the jackpot. So does that mean that there could be a prize pool advertised? You win the fight, but you still don't get it. I'd definitely like to learn more about that before making a thought of that. Top 3 executioners. So the top 3 challengers per combat that slay the most enemies. And in case of tiebreaker, it'd be based off of damage dealt. Would actually not get permadeath as well. And then get rewarded the top 3 TPI challengers that would have suffered permadeath. So does this mean that the winner of the entire Battle Royale doesn't get alluvials? They just get a prize. But the top 3 players in terms of eliminations would get alluvials. That's an odd way to do it, to think about it. At least that's, on first read, that's where my mind goes. 10% of fees go into the jackpot, and the winner has a 1 to 3% chance of getting a jackpot. Okay. I have a feeling as I scroll down here, it'll make a little bit more sense, but Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Squawk. Permadeath, challengers that die in deathmatch are burnt, hence permanently erased. Loadout, the set of equipment and actions performed before the fight begins. Fair enough. Deployment area, the location where your challenger is placed. Combat booster wheels. Casino-style wheels whose outcome boosts the combat performance of your challenger. Spinning costs credits. Each spin is more expensive than the previous. As you can probably tell by my reaction, I hate everything about this. When you're dealing with boosts and statistics, and you can outright just lose the game before you technically get into the game because other people are so jacked up and boosted on just this. Oh god, I just really don't like this, to be completely honest. Again, I love Risk when there's player agency involved, where I place the Illuvial can make a difference. How I trained it before going into the battle. I love that. I don't like where player agency could be make or break based off of tap, 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 tapping my credit card or whatever in order to get the win. So I don't want to stay on this point for too long, but as it stands right here, I hate everything about this, and that honestly took a lot of wind out of my sails. I get the game has to make money somehow. There has to be a better way than this. If you want a powerful boost, you need to get luckier, pay a lot of money, but the money goes into the prize. I don't care though, because you're actually just destroying the competitive integrity of the event. Because it's an outside way that somebody... If I'm playing soccer, no matter what, it's just based off of me. It's based off the same ball that everybody's using, and the only thing that's different is my shoes. The difference between personally competing based off of my loadout is super slim to none, and it keeps competitive integrity the same. Even in Illuvium Arena, right here, right now, everybody can technically go out into, or go into the overworld and get lucky finding an Illuvial that they get to keep on their team forever. And yes, some of those options are also paid, but this isn't then a repeated thing that you have to keep paying for every single time you go into a match. And I hate the fact that if somebody really just wanted to whale out, if I'm so-and-so, like, because my dream of this is, like, say if I wanted to raise a Archelian to be an arena gladiator, I would go and I would fuse my Archoses to get the best stat possible Archelian that I possibly want to do, and see if I can get it to, like, I could spend all the time making that Illuvial, and then I enter them into the arena, only for somebody to just mash their credit card with whatever Illuvial they happen to be doing and beat me. Yes, there is still always the chance that they can beat me, just heads up. But just adding in the booster casino bullshit, I do not like this. I do not like this at all, even if it's just one. You destroy the competitive integrity of the game. So, it depends on what kind of audience we're going for. We're seeing this audience is normally degens. There is a chance that you can still make this a legitimate game and not a casino. But does it make money? Of course, that's always the question. The combat dome, referring to the instance from anywhere from 10 to 100 players. The boundary refers to the perimeter, which shrinks over time. Challengers will prioritize stepping inside the boundary rather than attacking. But if they're outside the boundary, they receive damage, which is a little interesting. I'm curious as to how that'll end up working out. But I mean, we've seen Battle Royale, so we have the idea of how this goes. They talked about getting a buff where you KO and a... Like, that's a boost that you would have as a wheel? Is that what you're saying there, Squawk? Because, like, I get certain... Oh, we'll look at it in just a second here. So the game modes. There's a variety of modes here. Skirmish, anywhere from 10 to 100 players. No entry fee. There is the ownership bonus. There's permadeath, of course. No jackpot because it's free. Okay, fine. That's okay. Yeah, location 2, the Dow. Not in the wheel. It's automated. Okay. And then the prize pool being an EXP package. This I like! I like this entire setup here. Having a free area, because one of the things that we're looking for, right, is to be able to burn alluvials for experience. While this isn't a direct way of doing that, this is one way that you can technically do it. The only thing is, how often are we allowed to do this game mode? If we're only allowed to do a couple, then it's going to be a nightmare. If it's going to be something that's like we can just keep on doing day after day after day and like no issue, then I absolutely love this. The conquest mode, anywhere from 20 to 1,000 people with a $1 entry fee, but there is no ownership bonus. Usually permadeath, a jackpot of 1%, and the prize pool is fees and 1%. Can we just add XP in there as well? Just across the board, can we just add an experience package to every pool? But otherwise, the ownership bonus is being weird. I feel like it should either matter or it shouldn't matter across the board. It's weird that some modes do and some modes don't. Okay, so your Doka could kill a Tatopi and get a random buff like 10% damage and then also get 10% heal. Okay, as long as that's something that's not behind a paywall, then I wouldn't have a problem with that. Carnage mode, anywhere from 20 to 1,000 with a higher entry fee of $5. No ownership as well. Permadeath as usual, so same kind of scenario, but just more jackpots. Leviathan mode, anywhere from 20 to 10k. Interesting in terms of players. $20 entry fee with ownership bonus, with permadeath, 3% chance at jackpot, and so on and so forth. The idea is that there's 2 modes, one for gamers with alluvials and one for just degens, eh? Okay, I see what they're doing then. I get it. Just trying to have somebody who's outside of Illuvium and letting them be able to essentially bet on a fight. Okay, I get it. It took me a second, but that makes more sense. No, from that point of view, that does actually make sense. Because I'm coming from somebody who's just been specifically, like, a power user of Illuvium. And this is why I like having the chat up here while I'm going through this. Because I know that my mindset is not everybody's mindset. If anything, I know that I have a rare mindset in this space, so to speak. And I'm going to misinterpret things. So, Squawk, once again, thank you for pointing that out. Because, yeah, this actually makes sense for bringing somebody new into Illuvium, but still having them play on a somewhat even playing field because of that. If that's the case, then I would love there to be some sort of middle ground here, because Leviathan is kind of crazy. $20 for an entry fee. There's no middle ground here. I have either where I'm going for free. If I have my own alluvials, if I'm either doing free and getting experience, or I'm paying $20 for something massive. I would wish that there would be the equivalent of a conquest, or at minimum, a minimum of a carnage mode that does have ownership as well. Something where I'm not going to break the bank, so to speak. Like, for me personally, as like someone who doesn't get to spend really anything onto games, and would love to be able to play this, something between $1 to $5 for a run I can probably do. I can't justify doing multiple runs for $20. And I have my own alluvials that I want to use, but I don't just want experience. I want experience, don't get me wrong, I'm going to be happy that this is here, and in fact I want experience to be across the board for everything. But if I wanted to get involved here onto Jackpot, I would be willing to pay these prices. But I would also wish that there was some sort of ownership. These game modes run at fixed intervals, guaranteeing that players always have a match ready to join. If too few players register, the lobby carries over to the next scheduled start, improving the session reliability. The gameplay loop. They really hear feedback. If you have some, because before it was 1 to 10 to 50, and then they listened and changed that. I low-key might just have to chop this video up into this segment in particular and send it on over. That might be one way of doing it. Okay, quick pause before I go into the gameplay loop here. Need my medicine, sorry. Okay, the gameplay loop. So you choose the mode, choose the schedule, choose the alluvial. You load out, you spin the wheel for your boosters. Fighting phase, reveal opponent challengers and deployment area is revealed. So they're expecting you then, for those people that want to spin for boosters, they want you to do that before you know either how many or who you're up against. Interesting. And spectating, which is, I guess, optional, watch your challenger fight. Okay. Results, assess alluvial performance, time survived, slain enemies, damage dealt. Collect the rewards. The top 10 survivors earn monetary rewards. Top 3 executioners earn alluvial rewards, and then potentially the jackpot. So, okay. So, if you want to hunt alluvials, then you have to build a killer. And then surviving is just the shot at the prize in terms of the cash. Interesting. I do find it odd that the person who wins the entire game, the survivors, don't get any sort of alluvial rewards. That's weird to me. I guess it's not the end of the world. Once the loadout phase ends, everything is set. You could let the game run honestly, sign off, and see the results in any future instance. Player agency ends at the loadout phase. No player action can be done during fighting. And of course, this is the potential sometime down the road game mode where Players would get in-fight agency, selecting when to cast the Omega, high-level movement commands, targeting commands, and fight combat boosters through active economy systems. So, again, this sounds like it's not going to be out at the very, very beginning. In terms of if there was a way to do agency in-game, selecting when to cast the Omega, okay, cool. That's fine. Not a problem. Movement and maybe telling it where to go? Sure. Not a problem. Targeting? Who to go after? Okay. Not a problem. This screams to me, buy a health pack. Buy an attack booster. Buy defense booster. Buy movement speed. You need another health boost? Buy another health boost. Are you about to lose? Buy another health boost. Oh, you trained your fighter, but you don't want to pay more money in-game? Beep, beep, beep. I win. Bullshit game. I do not like that. Not a chance. I really hope that there does not ever end up being some sort of active economy, like on-the-fly booster that you can buy in the middle of a fight. I don't like that you can do it before the fight. I really don't want it in the middle of one. Really don't like that, and I hope I never see it. Matchmaking. The combat domes host a minimum of 10 players, max of 100. When a session has over 100 players, the match has 2 phases. Where basically, yeah, for skirmishes, there's the one dome. You have multiple domes for some of the bigger ones. So what happens if the player number is not ideal? Okay, just multiple phases. But at the end of the day, there's just 100 players basically per dome, and there might be multiple domes depending on how many players. And so on and so forth. Okay, sure, that's fine. Lobby and reveal rules here. Set and forget style action be done by player to participate in match. Mode, time slot, challenger, loadout, deployment, bidding. I guess it's just a matter of saying like, hey, I want to start here kind of thing. Okay, sure. Spin the wheels. Ugh. Now everything is programmed for the player. This allows the player to forget about the rest and come back to spectate the fight or just come back to check results. Until the reveal phase, only the number... Okay, until the reveal phase, only the number of players and countdown timer will be visible. So, okay. So you at least see how many players are in your lobby. So I'm thinking before like the wheel spin or whatever. So okay, you see how many players, but you won't know who's there. But you're still expected to buy wheel spins. Interesting. The reveal phase discloses the player names, the challengers, exactly what they are, plus their loadouts. Okay. So again, all player agency is done before you know who else is there, basically. You'll only know how many people are there, but that is it. Okay, they're literally calling this thing a slot machine. I'm scared. In the loadout phase, players get to play with a slot machine to acquire combat boosters for their challengers. Machine rules. There's 4 reels. Attack bonuses, defense bonuses, penalties, combo wheel. You can roll as much as you want, with the first roll being free, with each roll costs 10% of the entry fee. Now, here's the thing that I worry about still. Because people are going to justify that people that are spinning the wheel and rolling the wheel are providing more into the overall prize pool, and that this should be something that I'm happy about. But again, I still cannot be happy about it if it took away the competitive integrity of the game. That is what skews this from this being a game to me to being gambling, to being a casino. Which again, I'm sure that's who they're targeting, but it definitely puts it off for me anyway. So a couple of examples of attack bonuses here. Increasing damage dealt by 50. That's a huge boost. So not only, well, let's go through this here. 10 energy regeneration. Gain 1 attack speed for every 1 missing health. On takedown, heal 10% max HP. Or you just straight up get nothing. That's brutal. Okay. So not only are these boosts like locked behind a paywall, but these are very significant boosts. Like 50% additional damage dealing, that is brutal. That is the difference maker probably between my Illuvial having a relatively, like, not a fair fight, but at least it's a challenging but okay fight, to me just getting one shot and having absolutely no say in the fight. And that's kind of BS. Energy regeneration for more Omegas. Like, I get it. The Raging Blood, this is a high risk, high reward kind of thing that I don't necessarily feel as bad about. And then on takedown, healing. Sure. The defensive boost. So the thing, of course, as well, there's multiple reels, so you could get multiple, I'm guessing multiple boosts. It doesn't say one. So you can roll the reel as much as you want. Does it say anywhere that this stacks? It doesn't say anything about that. Because in my mind, if somebody I'm going up against is playing with their plastic and just enjoying the sensation of getting boosts, could they get multiple of the same buff? Or get a Savage Wrath plus Raging Blood kind of thing, plus these defensive things? And then plus, I guess there's penalties here as well, plus combos. Because if that stacks, that's kind of brutal. There's not really competitive things inside of this, maybe 5% skill. If this works, you'll have more player agency, but this is just, this game is in need and just there to make money. The mode doesn't demand a lot of work from the developers and can bring money to the DAO. So, okay. Ownership bonuses for Hollow and Dark Hollows. Level and TPI bonus stats from ownership apply in certain deathmatch games. While we want some modes to reward collectors for using their top Illuvials, we also want modes where level and TPI bonuses do not apply for the more level playing fields. Yeah, that's to let your newcomers in. Okay, yeah, I get that. In games where ownership bonuses is affected, picking a Hollow or Dark Hollow challenger comes with additional advantages. So you're exposing a higher rarity Illuvial to permadeath, so you get a boost in stats. So Hollow Illuvials get a 20% stat boost. Dark Hollows get a 50% stat boost. So as long as this stays in this game, I'll be happy. What I don't want to see is sometime down the road where all of a sudden now Hollows get a bonus in the arena. Or Hollows get a bonus in the MMO. If you want to keep it to this, okay, fine. It is what it is. I'm not going to cause a fuss about it. Just don't bring that system into other games. Yeah, I'm going to spend $200 a game. Let's go. Like, you're just kidding, but there's people that could. And I don't know. That's just frustrating to me. Top 3 executioners. In every combat dome, the system will monitor which were the 3 challengers that killed the most opponents. So every single combat dome, whether it be round 1, 2, or whatever, will have top 3 with Executioner's perks. So if you happen to be in that top 3, you don't actually lose your Illuvial. It does not experience permadeath. Assigned by podium, each Executioner obtains one of the 3 highest TPI challengers that would have experienced permadeath in that combat dome. Again, I'm very, very surprised that the winner of the lobby, or the survivors, don't get any chance at this at all. Because they could play strategically properly, win the game, and still miss out on that reward. But I do get it. You want to actually have an exciting game as well. And if everybody's turtling, it doesn't make for exciting gameplay. You want to see like the assassin kind of style. So I get it. It's weird to me, but at the same time, it's not the end of the world. I can deal with that. The killing blow mechanic. When a challenger delivers a killing blow onto an enemy, they will instantly heal for 10% of their max HP as reward. Wasn't this... So this is outside of... this? So, like, if you got the last hit, for example, even if you didn't have a wheel boost, you would still heal a little bit? I'm interested in that. Monetization. Okay, so the idea is that the entry fee, 80% would go to the prize pool, 10% to the jackpot, 10% to the DAO. Same idea here with the wheel fees. The jackpot is accrued throughout all game modes. Only by being the winner of the match in a specific mode would make you eligible. Jackpot grows each game based on 10% of total fees collected. These refer to 2.2 in regards to the odds. That's fine. Top 10 survivors are those who lasted the longest alive, and they would share. This is what it ended up looking like. Of course, for 3 of the game modes in regards to Conquest, Carnage, and Leviathan. First, we get 50%, 25 for second, 10 for third, 4th and 5th get 5, 6 to 10 gets 1, with only the winner being eligible for jackpot. Sure, fair enough. And again, I would just love to see the experience moved over to the other game modes as well, preferably. That's the only thing. I have no argument against that. That's fine. Yes, that one is outside the wheel. So, okay, so if you hit the Essence of Blood or whatever it was, it's just an additional 10% on every kill, I guess? Okay. Combat overview. Deathmatch uses the Illuvial combat identical to what occurs in the overworld encounters. So Illuvials move freely, acquire targets in real time, navigate using the overworld nav mesh, and use their standard basic attacks and omegas until the match ends. Players do not control the Illuvials at any point. All deathmatch battles are inside the overworld, using a dedicated subsection of one of the flattest overworld regions. It's fully navigatable with the overworld pathfinding, readable for large-scale combat, circular to support the dome, cleared of any clutter, tuned for performance at 100 Illuvials an instance. Okay, sure. All Illuvials spawn simultaneously, but not on top of each other. That is good. Facing inward towards the circle. In terms of aggro, they detect enemies within a fixed aggro radius. Acquire the nearest visible target. Switch targets if the current target dies or becomes unreachable. One thing I'm curious about. Chocoral Umber. Do they still go untargetable? Because if they do, I could literally give you the meta for this game right here, right now. I'm writing that down. That's a idea for a video later. Tier list in regards to surviving a battle royale. All right, there we go. If somebody wants to take that idea and make their own video, that's fine. We can fight with our opinions. I don't mind having more than one out there. Okay, movements. Move freely across the terrain, path around rocks. Yep. Stay inside the dome. Reposition naturally. Combat actions. They use their default overworld basic attacks. Trigger Omega when energy and cooldown conditions are met. Have their normal alluvial stats and continue fighting until match end or death. Okay. And this is the part that I wish was a thing. So instead of just, pulling on the slot machine to get your boosts, I wish that there was a way that you can have some of those boosts on the field as a pickup. I don't know how you entice your alluvial to go to the pickup. That I can imagine being a little bit weird, but I wish that there was a way, or here we go. I would be much less egregious with the entire slot machine if there was a free-to-play way that I can pick up the same boost at risk. All you Hunger Games fans with the cornucopia, like the open area that has all the weapons, but if you have to go through it, you're likely fighting for your life. Give me that dynamic in the game. Like if I can get, let's see here, I'm at 4.5. Okay. If I can get a chance at, say, the first reel where there's happens to be a little care package that drops and lands on the ground, and there's an attack boost in there. The attack boost can be random. You can randomize that. That's totally fine. Heck, it could be a dud. It could be nothing. But if there is the chance that my alluvial could run over there, pick it up, I would have next to no problem with people spending money to have that boost off the start, if that makes sense. Because in theory, there is a way where my low spend or free to play way could pick up a similar boost. But the pay for convenience in this instance would mean that you start with that boost. I would be much less angry at the entire slot machine mechanic if that was a way. If there's a way that you can pick it up off the ground. So I wish that this changes someday, where you can get the boosts somewhere on the ground. It would make me feel a lot better. Because yes, I get, like, they're literally, in every sense of the word, they're calling this a casino. This is here to generate money for the game. And as much as I don't like the casino style stuff, I get that they need to keep the lights on. But I do believe that there is a middle ground where you can still keep a style like this casino style, this risk, this gambling style, but also keep the competitive integrity side of it not as egregious. So if you want to let people spin the slot machine for boosts that they can get at the start, but there is always the chance that one falls down in front of my alluvial that I can pick up without paying anything. I feel like that'd be a good middle ground. But again, how do you get your alluvial to actually focus the boost? That would be interesting. Sota asked about a buff after killing an alluvial. That in theory be another way of doing it as well. That way you don't have to worry about walking to somewhere to pick up said boost. You would just have the chance at it when you eliminate an alluvial. Yeah. That would be one way of doing that. In regards to the dome, fully expanded, shrinks inward, standard battle royale stuff. Forces alluvials towards the center. Being on the outside of the dome implies the damage. Max HP damage and ignores defensive stats. Yep. Standard for battle royale. Max duration for each match is 5 minutes. That's pretty cool. Nice and quick. No match can end in a draw. And the dome will shrink within the 5 minutes. And the damage from the dome becomes more lethal in later phases. Illuvials are forced into the tight proximity so nobody can hide. Yeah, fair enough. Standard Battle Royale. To encourage aggressive gameplay and balance, the surviving advantage of tanky or healing Illuvials challengers will instantly recover 10% upon delivering a killing blow. Yep. An Illuvial dies when health reaches 0, or the dot makes them reach 0. Upon death, it's flagged for permadeath and immediately despawns. All of that was straightforward. No issue there. X integration provides targeted incentives for high-impact social accounts to enter deathmatch and play high-stakes mode early. Players within the ecosystem already own Illuvials and are familiar with the game format. In contrast, new entrants from outside the Illuvium ecosystem may not own any Illuvials at all, so there's the barrier, of course. Smooth onboarding, new players would receive 1 ADR run alongside their first entry fee purchase. Interesting. This ensures they're immediately equipped with the minimum Illuvial assets required to play. With this, grants players to be able to play in at least 8 matches to understand the gameplay risk and reward loop. After that, they can make an informed decision whether to get more ADR or directly from the marketplace. Note that there's nothing about actually going into the overworld to get your own. So I imagine they're already taking this in mind with the overworld being down. What is also a little bit alarming is that there is nothing in regards to catching an Illuvial in the MMO and turning it into something you can use here. Might have been an oversight, might have been intentional, we'll have to see. Social rank tiers. When a player connects their X account, a separate service evaluates their social metrics and assigns a social rank tier. Oh boy, we got credit here. Okay. The scoring algorithm can be implemented in a separate service. Game only does that. Okay, so basically, from what I'm understanding, just people with big social media followings can just get some free entries, I imagine, just to try and promote the game to their audience without them having to necessarily spend, I guess. In addition to any battle pass free entries. Okay, sure. Okay, so if you happen to be actually popular, you might get some free stuff, or some free entries. It is what it is. Social rank tiers also get themselves an Illuvatar, eh? Alright. Again, cosmetic profile picture is what it is. And with that, alright, that's basically it. That is the doc. So, what are my thoughts on it? I guess to kind of sum things up here before we call it a day today. So, of course, as someone who comes from specifically the gaming side of things and an esports side of things, I'm very used to having my games kind of tailored where it's as close to a fair playing field as possible. Of course, a casino-style gambling kind of game is literally everything but that for the most part. And depending on how Illuvium wants to handle this, like, it's clear that they want this to be as like the degen gambling game. But I'd argue that you can still get that audience even if the game is still a little bit balanced, if that makes sense. So I'm definitely going to wrap up my feedback and send it over to everybody, but the main things that I'm looking for is in regards to the slot machine wheel. Because as of right now, that's the only thing that I see in the game where you can just like straight up pay to win and just like outbuy somebody. Because we would be, if we went that way, we would be missing on a little bit of a fantasy arc here that we could be doing where, like I was kind of saying before, if I wanted to raise an alluvial to be a gladiator of sorts, I train them up for this specific chance of getting into the arena and playing in this game mode. I understand that it's not going to be a perfect fair chance, because at the end of the day, this isn't a one-on-one. This is like a 1 versus 10,000. So no matter what I do to raise this alluvial, I get like it's never going to be a perfect fight. However, I don't also want to be hurt at the fact that somebody can just tap their card and immediately disregard all the work that I put into my alluvial. So what I would hope for as the happy compromise, because either I hate it so much I want the slot machine to be gone, or two, let there be another way for me to get those boosts in battle, in the field, whether it be having to go to a risky area, the cornucopia or whatever that I called before to reference the Hunger Games, or maybe there's an area, like say in the map overview. If in the map overview, there's like, oh, in this section over here, there's a boost pad that if you step on it, you might get a offensive boost. But everybody sees that. People who want that boost can make the choice to go over into that area and like try to get that boost. But I know that if my alluvial revolves more around survival and defensive play, that then I as the player can choose somewhere else to go. If there's a bit of a dynamic like that, where the slot machine still exists for people to get boosts off the start if they wanted to, but I could also boost my own alluvials by taking risky pathways, which also makes it perfect for those players that do want to wail out on boosts. If all of these free-to-play or low-spend players are going towards the boosted area because they want to boosts, wouldn't that be the perfect time for your wailed out Rampfire to absolutely just wreck everybody and get yourself on top of that top alluvial list? But the thing is that there's choice there. I, as a player, as a low spend or no spend player, can make the choice to risk it and go for that boost, or go elsewhere. I have the choice. I do not have the choice of whether or not somebody else spends over and over and over again. But I can still acquire some of those same boosts in risky fashion. So I think that's the only major problem that I have with the game as it stands right here, right now. In terms of like top executioners getting the alluvials instead of the survivors, I mean, I wish the survivors would get one as well, but I'm not going to die on that hill. That's not the end of the world for me. The fact that hollows actually get stat boosts, like, that's not a problem for me. That's totally fine. And then the only other major remark would just be in regards to the prizing, where I would just love to see XP boosts given in the other 3 game modes as well, not just the free-to-play one. And on top of that, I want there to be a middle ground option for a game mode with alluvial ownership. Because right now, as it stands, there's Skirmish, which is the free-to-play ownership one, with permadeath and the XP boost. But if I wanted to play for a prize outside of experience, I would have to pay $20 every single time to do the Leviathan mode. Because the two middle versions, Conquest and Carnage, don't have ownership bonuses. So what I would hope for is that there is a middle ground, say between Conquest and Carnage, a $3 mode, where they have, you can keep it to 20 to 1,000 players, the entry fee would be $3, let there be ownership bonuses, let there be permadeath and jackpot potential, and keep the fee and prize pools basically as is, percentage of fees with hopefully XP, and prize pool / DAO and whatnot. Like that to me is kind of missing. Because yeah, as it stands right here, right now, if this game released today, how would I be playing it as a power user of Illuvium? I'd only be playing the free-to-play skirmish. That's it. I can't afford to pay $20 per pop on Leviathan mode. So I understand that I have to forego the chance at forego the chance of there being any chance of jackpot, any sense of a prize pool, and then maybe, just maybe, I would go into Conquest or maybe go into Carnage with my absolute garbage tier alluvials that I do not care. But the problem is I'm not attached to that. Like I wouldn't raise a gladiator alluvial for Conquest or Carnage because there's no ownership bonus. So what it ends up being is I'm just going to end up taking, since there's no ownership bonus, I'll just take whatever trash alluvial I have. I'm paying $1 and throwing it into the random chance slot machine. That is as much as it is going to be. I have no agency in this basically whatsoever, and that just feels bad. So I wish there was a middle ground. I think middle ground, no ownership, are the floor price alluvials bought by the DAO. When you pay $5-10, you got one random they bought. So you as a player, you can sell your garbage. Yeah. That's basically all it would be for. It's like, yes, you caught all of these alluvials. Yes, you're probably never going to use them again. So the only way that you can use it in the game right now is via this slot machine. But you still have to pay the $1 or the $5 for it. Or so you're like selling the garbage. Okay, I think I'm understanding a little bit better now. I don't know. I mean, I understand in gambling that there is, like, you want to detach the sense of loss and the sense of attachment to your gameplay as much as possible. And there is definitely features in here that do reflect that. Like, say the fact that you can just set and forget the alluvial and whatnot. Like, they made it as easy as possible to not care about what you're getting rid of. And I mean, that's Casino 101, right? You don't want to... You want to minimize the feeling of having that money taken away from you. Or in this instance here, you want to minimize the feeling, the pain of the alluvial leaving you, the alluvial dying. Meanwhile, personally, every single alluvial that you put into this arena, I want you to feel pain, sadness. When it dies, I want it to hurt. But there's a reason why I don't run a casino. Yeah, to me, that is a creature, that is an alluvial, that is a partner that you just sent off to die. But again, that's just my take on it. In regards to what I would do, because it was brought up yesterday, it's like, okay, you hate gambling, but you would probably make content for this, no matter what, right? And it does put me in a very, very odd position. All I gotta say, because they do have a spectator mode in this, and if there's a way that I can, what I would love to have, I would love to have a spectator mode of a game that I do not have any stakes in. So I can go watch somebody else's game, basically. Similar to what I can do in Arena right now, I want to be able to do that in this as well. And with that, like, I don't want it to just be specifically being able to spectate games on games that I'm in. Just at least so that I can actually say, if I were to commentate on these matches, for example, that I don't have to be involved in one. Take away any bias from me. Just let me tell the story of the match at hand. Let me give some personality to the fight that's happening in front of us. Let me watch our gladiators. Let me watch our fighters. Let me watch those underdogs of those alluvials that you just want to burn. Let me make them feel like a hero on the way out. Let me do something like that to put some personality into this, more than just if you know what I mean. If I were to stream this, I would have to make it painfully clear. Like, repeating myself before every single match. I would treat this as if I would treat this more strictly than an actual slots and casino stream. I would be making remarks that, hey, like, the people that are playing this game are putting in their the people that are playing this game are putting in these alluvials, putting in these assets that are worth real world money and could be lost. Like, please do make sure that you're playing responsibly and there is help for gambling. I would make that clear, because I do not want to at all. Look, my reputation's been destroyed already because I'm pushing a game that people are in or I'm pushing a crypto game. Because I'm into Web3 crypto stuff, people already think I'm a scam. And if I'm going to start pushing a gambling thing, let's be honest, that's just the next thing on the docket, right? What's the next thing? You got a course for me to sell, or a course for me to do, or you got some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell me? Like, what's next, buddy? I need to make it painfully clear so that I morally feel okay doing this. Disclaimer, don't do this at home. And oddly enough, if we really think about this, this is a virtual cockfighting ring. Or, like, chicken fighting. This is just like this is a dog pit. This is a virtual dog pit. So don't try this at home. Is honestly something that I have to remind people. It's like, hey, this is a virtual thing. This is a game. Do not replicate anything you see here. And I might be being a little bit exaggerated. And I might be thinking over the top. I might be thinking worst case scenario. But as a parent myself, and as somebody who worked in college esports, where I saw a lot of my players on CSGO skins in particular just absolutely disconnect the thought of these skins being worth money, and then getting so into it, so excited about it, and then not having any money for food, or their rent comes up and they don't have enough money and they're begging other players. I've seen this happen. So for me personally, I will probably make content with this game. I want to make this sound fun. This does sound entertaining. And I do feel like that my voice and my ability to storytell can actually make for some very exciting and emotional content. But I morally will 100% be calling it as it is. There's no sugarcoating. It's gambling. And as you should, make sure you're doing it responsibly. So, in regards again, I am excited for it. Don't get me wrong. My only gripe, of course, is just in regards to the boosts. And depending on how that boosts end up becoming, will determine whether or not I'm actually a player in this arena for anything outside of the free-to-play aspect. Because yeah, I too have a bunch of alluvials that I can absolutely burn in this instance here. I hate to see them go, but I understand that there's nothing that I can do with them right now. And I can't one-to-one just turn them in or use them for EXP to have their essence live on in another alluvial. So the arena is the only thing that I can do right now. Or not the arena, but the Risk2Earn mode would be the only way that I can do it. And I am excited for it. I'm just super, super cautious. And I 100% am going to go in with the mindset, if I make content about this, this is an 18+ stream. And with gambling disclaimers all over the place. Because 100%. They're literally calling this for gambling and slot machines. So legally, Squawk, your mindset's in the same as mine, where what do you have to do legally? I'm sure there's a bunch of things with lawyers and stuff that you have to worry about, especially if you're going for mobile as well, where it's more accessible. There are a lot of things that Illuvium is going to have to do to protect themselves going into this kind of market. And I need to protect myself just as badly as a content creator that would be inadvertently promoting this. So that's why 100%, right off the rip, if I make content on the Illuvium Deathmatch or whatever this Risk2Earn game is called, I'm going to call it what it is up front. I'm not hiding nothing. This is gambling. Make sure you're doing it responsibly. Whew. That was definitely interesting. That was entertaining. I thank everybody for tuning in. Yeah, I yapped so long. That's basically going to cover today's stream. In regards to my schedule for tomorrow, or the next day, I don't see anything in regards to the download, so I don't want to say something's happening when there might not be. I'm gonna quickly check Scoriox's YouTube to see if he has it open. Oh, actually, they did make a post. If I were quickly fire back over here, we do in fact have an episode of the download happening tomorrow. It's 6 in the morning my time. Not sure exactly what that translates to UTC, but it looks like the arena, of course, with the EXP change is going to be something noteworthy. So I will absolutely be on the download here for tomorrow. And then Friday, we'll be right back at it again. But this time on to my stream. Of course, the download, the podcast, that's on Scoriox's YouTube channel. Make sure you go and give him a sub there to make sure you don't miss out. And then for my channel in particular, we will be back at it again on Friday. Overworld Yaps, as I'm calling it. This is just going to be my chill day, essentially, where I'm just going through the overworld and trying to see if I can find a couple upgrades for my team. Maybe find a few teammates, find a few new friends to join the squad. I've still got plenty of upgrades that I need to make with my team, and we'll see if maybe we could find some together on Friday's stream. Whether it be subscribing on YouTube or following if you're on Twitch or X, would love to have you come out once again, because it was a very, very fun stream. I hope it was informative. Hope it was fun for everybody, and I hope everybody has a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow for the download.